like tight shirts, but I think even for me, this shirt might be a little too tight. So if you remember, I told you my family owned a farm, and that is where I rode horses for a long time of my life. Well, because my family owned that farm, they owned that farm filled with those horses and no other animal other than dogs and cats, because they ran a stagecoach, and they went to several events where, like, little kids could ride the ponies and whatever. But the main thing was they had this big, elegant stagecoach, which you could call a carriage. And it was primarily used for wedding scenes, as it was white and the interior was like a maroon color. I believe they sold it now because my father doesn't want to run the stagecoach thing, and my grandparents are too old to run it, and my aunt is physically incapable of running it. And apparently my uncle on that other side doesn't give a shit either. So, that aside, I rode it once while my dad was doing a job, actually. He was like outside a hotel. I think they had like a prom there or whatever, and they were just giving out rides, and it was, I believe, completely free unless they tip. And, and I just remember sitting up there with my dad just waiting for people to ask if they wanted to ride or whatever. And I just looked down and there was just like a wad of money stuffed in the seat. I was like, what? Money's like, that's tips. I was like, well, why do you leave it in there? He's like, I don't have anywhere else to put it, or something like that. So I did get a free ride once around with just me and my dad, and it was probably one of the coolest things ever, honestly. When I really look back and think about it, that was probably one of my favorite memories with my dad. Was just me, him, the horses in this carriage, and just going around the city. It felt really surreal, because you see it in movies and they're going through like a park and whatever, but you never really see it when it's going through a fucking city. Not to the point of where it's in the city. Usually it's like on the outskirts or whatever, but so it was really surreal. And you have the bright lights and you have the horses, and I don't know, it's just really cool. So that was the one, that night I rode a couple times with my dad. Unless he had a full house of people, I rode with him up front and passengers rode in the back. And then there was a time when I got to ride in the back with my cousins, I believe it was. But yeah, so I've rode a carriage a couple times, but only once in my entire life, if that makes sense. Basically, one night in my entire life, probably a dozen rides maybe. So yeah, I rode a carriage, and it was pretty cool. Carriage.